Welcome to the Come Join the HighLife podcast, home of the hustlers, the innovators, the gifted, and the honorable, where we stay high on love, high on impact, high on faith, and high on energy. So if that sounds like you or what you represent, you definitely in the right place. Welcome to the Come Join the HighLife podcast. Hello. What's going on, beautiful people? It's your boy, Mr. HighLife Films.
And it's your lady, Trumeeyka.
And we are here again, another episode of the Come Join the HighLife podcast. And I am super excited about today. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. You know, it's that time of the year.
I see you a little teary-eyed. I'm trying to figure out what you got going on. What you got going on, sister?
It's that time of the year where all of our babies are graduating and, you know, we saying our goodbyes, or it's not really even goodbyes, it's a see you later. But yeah, and it's just an accomplishment for them. So yeah, it's that time of the year where you start to get a little emotional.
Yeah, so shout out to all the kids graduating on whatever level it is, promoting, getting to the next level. Salute to our kids. They did a great job. The two young ones have graduated and moving up to the next level. And my daughter, she's next. That's next week, right? Next week, my daughter's gonna be graduating. She's going to high school, so it's about to get real, y'all. Pray for me, please. Keep me in your prayers. But today, it's pretty cool that we talk about, graduation and stuff, and then we got our guest today. So today is a good friend of mine. We're in a couple of communities together. That's why you have good friends when y'all we in everything together. Like we in this community together. Now I look up and I see TD over here. I'm like, shit, everywhere. Everywhere I turn around, it's TD. So but we're in Ash Cash's group. We're in the MMU together, and just from outside looking in, our guest is someone that I've seen their growth. I've seen, how they just getting out of their comfort zone and they just going full force, and I'm kind of inspired too as well. We're gonna get into that, but they're not only are she's a teacher. Not only is she a teacher, she's a podcaster.
Okay.
Not only is she a podcaster, she is the best-selling author. Ain't no regular author. Best-selling author, and and also a consultant. So today we have my good friend TD Flenaugh. How you doing, girl?
Welcome.
I'm doing so great. Thank you so much. What a wonderful opening. I appreciate that.
You deserve it. Yeah, so how you doing today? Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Yes, I'm TD Flenaugh. I am an author, a teacher, a podcaster. I have the Falling for Learning podcast. And everything I do is about legacy building. How do we get that next generation on track for learning and to stay on track for success? So that's what I really am about, making sure that people get the support they need to help our students, make their goals become reality. And so, right in the graduation season, it's perfect. It goes right hand in hand.
Yeah. How long have you been a teacher?
I've been a teacher since the year 2000. I had my first class, my little first graders in the year 2000. So that's how long I've been teaching formally as a teacher.
What subject?
So I started in elementary. Have done elementary, I've done middle school, and I have high school now. So I've done all three levels of schooling.
Wow. You're an OG. We're gonna put it that way. Cause that's right there. You got to be a whole different type of to deal with. Go from elementary to middle school to high schoolers. Like you are the real MVP. Every teacher I come in contact with, I let y'all know that y'all are the real MVP. My mom was a teacher, a history teacher in high school.
Wow.
So I seen the impact she made, and she went to she taught at a predominantly white school. So this back in the 80s, the 90s, to see my mom making such an impact in these kids' lives, and they didn't even look like me, and I was like, well, dang, you got to be a different type of person. You got to love a little different. Cause my dad didn't really like it, but my mom, yeah, it was different.
Yeah, I've done that. I've done predominantly white schools. I've done, predominantly Black. I've done predominantly Latino. So it just depends. I've worn different hats in education and supported different ethnicities of students.
So out of all the levels of schools you taught, what's your favorite?
I have to say middle school. I really like my middle schoolers. They're making that transition from kid to teenager,
Mm.
and I really, really like that age. And I spent the most time there with my middle schoolers. So I really have to say that's one. And that's what my book focuses on, middle schoolers as well. So my book set I have.
So matter of fact, let's talk about that then. Let's talk about your book, the best-selling book. That just don't let that go over your head. I'm just saying, best-selling book.
Yes, very blessed that the book was one of the bestsellers on Amazon the first week that it came out. So wonderful. And I'm so grateful to all the people who supported me as well. So we have the rewrite workbook, rewrite method, and then the rewrite method workbook. So we have two books. So this first book really is about giving the why behind what's the ideas behind it. So the whole title of the book is The Rewrite Method, the Parent and Educator Guide for Getting Middle Schoolers to Fall in Love with Writing. So I've seen a trend where kids really hate to write. And I specialize in writing, and I know things that we could do to help kids love to write. And so I really wrote this book because I see that urgency there. And writing is such a high level skill, and it's a gatekeeping skill, right? If you can't write well, you're going to be left out of a lot of things. And again, I'm about legacy building. Like, what do we need to do? What tools do we need to put in place for our kids to make sure that they can make it to their dreams? Not just dream, but make it part of their reality, right?
Yes,
So
absolutely. I love that. And it seemed as though rewrite, is that an acronym? Okay.
yes, it is an acronym. So rewrite stands for R for root causes and recognizing talents, E for effective feedback. W is for the writing process. R is for real world purposes. I for intentional practice. T is for writing traits. E is for encouraging creativity, right? So yeah, so these different elements can work. They don't have to all go together, but having these elements within the writing process as we're teaching students will help them to love to learn to write. Um, and one of the ones I want to really highlight is the E for effective feedback, because that's where we really get kids hating to write, because it is very normal for kids to have 30, 50 mistakes in their writing, like at the middle school level, because they're writing more, they're writing multiple paragraphs, right? Um, and then some of us, and I've done this when I first started teaching, we'll take our pen and we will mark up all 50 of those mistakes, all 30 of those mistakes. And what's the message? I suck at writing. I'm horrible at this. I'm no good at it, right? And so the effective feedback is really a 4 positive to 1 area of focus, for, want to have that ratio, right? We're mostly talking about what they did well. And we give strategies about how to do that, because their writing may be really bad overall. But what can we look at that's promising in their writing and help build them up? Because if I feel like I'm terrible at it and there's nothing that I could do better, then why even try? Right. And that's where a lot of kids are. In fact, there's a trend where a lot of kids, when it comes to writing assessments and stuff like that, there are a contingency of students, and it's growing, where there's not, remediation happening and support happening, where they just refuse to write. So we don't even know what their writing skill is, because when it's time to sit down and do that assessment for writing, they don't do it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you kind of know they're not good at writing, but and they, have really like divorced themselves from writing. But that's why I felt that urgency, because it's a growing number of students who are just like, I hate it and I won't do it. Right. So, and the last one, E for encouraging creativity, is so important, because that is what really sucks the joy out of writing too, right? Not only like just getting the message, everything's horrible, instead of what's promising, but also everybody's going to write the same thing, right? And you'll hear that. everyone is doing a report on the election. Everyone's doing it. Everyone's doing a report on that. And of course, some kids are like, wait, yeah, this is great, the election. And then some kids are going to hate that. Instead of saying, we're going to do a research report, you get to choose what you want to do a research report on, because I need to see how well you do research and how you write research reports. But I'm going to give you creativity, I'm going to give you choice. You get to write a research report on whatever interesting to you. And so that's what we have. A lot of people, their practice is everyone is writing about this thing. And that people hate it. Kids
Yeah.
hate it. Like, I don't care about the election. I don't want to write about the election. Right. And they're like,
But if you
you're
let
only
them
going
be
to hit.
creative, if you let them creative, then they might write it from the point of view of a toddler or the point of view of a bird or something. You know what I mean? Just to make it
Yes.
creativity, like you said, and I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you could, people, of course, we need to practice on skills, research reports, argumentation, persuasive, whatever, but giving them a choice of topics rather than saying, no, you're writing about this. And of course, we all are different. And, you might give me to write about rainbows, and I hate rainbows. I don't want to write about it, I'm upset. But if you get me to choose what I want to write about, a research report on, then I'm excited to write about, braid styles or whatever. And that's what I love. And I'll get into it and I'll show you my research report skills, right? You could write about dinosaurs, or you could write about the election if that's what you want to do. And we all have something interesting. And even the teachers will complain. They're like, wow, I have like 150 essays on the election. It's like, yeah, you assigned everyone to write the same thing. So you'll see, like, sometimes, a lot of times, teachers don't have the skills or the understanding about how to get kids to love writing. And they don't like some aspects of it because it is boring if I tell you to read 150 essays on the election, right? That's going to be pretty boring. So there's elements of it as a teacher that you're not going to be happy about it. And then, of course, the rewrite method. These are some tried and true things. I've used it with my daughter. I've used it with my, nephews, nieces, and of course my students. And so I know that they work. So I have kids that they love to write, and I know how to hook them into the writing in a way, because it's about their choice and about developing their voice and their personal expression.
This is so exciting because first and foremost, I love when our babies have the opportunity to really gain new knowledge. Now, I have to ask, like, do you teach this outside of school? Like, do you tutor on writing as well, or?
Good question. Oh, so one of the things that I do, I do a writing course at UCLA, which is the University of California, Los Angeles, for young writers. So every summer I've been doing that. And so I teach students in that way. And I am also expanding my course offering so that other people could understand and know how to do this. Um, and it's so important and interesting that you asked about beyond school, because I noticed that there is a gap, right, in teacher understanding about it. And so this is why it's called the Parent and Educator Guide, because we do see a disconnect with school across the nation, and there is an explosion of people that are homeschooling their kids. And so those parents should have this information about what to do. And I was not ever a homeschool mom, but I definitely was all up in it. We had lots of at-home learning sessions, right? And so there are parents that aren't doing homeschool, but they're doing a lot of homeschool sessions, right? Or learning sessions at home. And they need to know this. And then as you advocate for your kid, if they're in the regular school system, advocate for some of these elements. Like, my child doesn't want to do a research report on elections. Can they do a research report on this other thing? Because as English teachers, our standard is to see that they can write research reports. It's not that they have to write a research report on elections, right? So you could ask for that for a teacher, because maybe the teacher doesn't know. We know that there's high teacher turnover rates, and they may not know. They're just going by what they learned, that everyone's doing a report on this one thing. Everyone's doing a story on this one thing. Everyone's doing, and kids really are turned off by it. But you could read this book and advocate for your child and say, can they do the research report on something that they really love? He's interested in this. He doesn't want to do it on elections. And the teacher should be able to accommodate that because, again, the standard is about that particular writing genre, not about that subject, right? And, you know, in even like history teachers or whatever, there are aspects of what they're teaching. They have to do like that specific content, but there's a way to approach the content in a creative way, or giving them a choice. You could be on the side of the revolutionaries, or you could be get a Native American perspective on this. That will give students some buy-in, right? Rather than me saying, no, you're doing this and everyone's doing this, and that is the end of it, right? And that's when we see kids like, I'm not writing it.
And if they're not writing it, they gonna start cheating. I mean, if we all got
yes, they could cheat. Yes.
Yeah, but that's
exactly.
And you know what you just said in regards to the research portion, because when you research and you start to find out different things, now you become interested in something maybe you wasn't interested in before, or maybe you didn't have as much knowledge in before, and something within you sparked the interest where it made you want to do deeper research. So what you were saying earlier in regards to uplifting the students whenever they're writing certain things and not just marking off
effective feedback.
that effective feedback. I think that's
that too. I was gonna ask that because like you were saying, marking up the paper, that red pen.
Yes.
Oh Jesus, that red pen. Why?
Make it bleed.
Why? But marking up is one thing, but I always used to think, what if this kid is just super creative, but they just don't know how to say it. They just can't get the words because they came from an environment where all they heard was maybe cuss words or slang, or and you don't really have a word to explain how you truly feel. But you could be a brilliant mind. Like I could just imagine that Einstein could not write a 10-page paper. I could just imagine that he couldn't write a 10-page paper, but he could put some things together where you'd be like, oh my God, gravity, or oh my God, you know what I mean? Like stumble into something.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because yes, when you focus in on just all the negatives, which again is very developmentally appropriate at this age to have 30, 50 mistakes, right? But if I'm just focused on that, then I miss the message, the ideas that you have. And the other thing that you're saying is maybe we weren't speaking a lot of academic English at home, and my parents aren't, professors or educated or whatever, but we know that people can express themselves even though they're not speaking eloquently or in standard English. And so that is part of this as well, is as we're thinking about creativity and choice, that sometimes you could give them assignment to write in non-standard English, to write in that way. And you could even have them change it into more standard, or take a standard English something and make it in a less standard way, right? A more language, or just in your more colloquial language or your dialect. Because we know, right? When I come into my family's house, you don't welcome family. I'm so glad that you're here today. We're so glad you come to visit.
Oh my God, you was reading online.
I will say what's up. She'll be like, "What one? What is up, mother?"
So it's like situational appropriateness, right? So teaching them that. And so there is a part of the book that teaches that as well. Our real world purposes and our encouraging creativity. Sometimes for the situation, you want to have the non-standard English. That's what's acceptable, right? Just like if I am being interviewed by Congress, it's not situationally appropriate for me just to speak in language or just in dialect, right? It's not situationally appropriate for you to go to your family reunion and just try to be speaking standard academic English the whole time. It's like, what are you doing? Like You don't, that's not how you feel comfortable, and it's not right for that situation. So explaining that to the kids. So we're validating the home, the way that we communicate between home, between our friends, in less formal ways, but also explaining that the standard English is the only appropriate way in certain situations, right? Just like it's just not appropriate to try to come and speak academic English and try to correct everyone's non-standard English at the family reunion.
That is
It's
not
just
said in the
not
movie.
appropriate, right?
You're gonna be the annoying cousin.
Or no one wants to talk to you. Like, no, I don't want to talk to you. Do you mean to say it this way instead of ain't? Like, no, this isn't it.
Here she come, y'all.
That part.
Yeah, you can't be yourself. So express, like, that is the beauty of language and the beauty of writing. That sometimes, we could study authors that have dialect, and we could study authors that are academic English. And then we could talk about those situations. And then we can write and create those worlds in which the character is doing all non-standard English. That they're speaking in that Louisiana dialect that our family has or whatever. And that's what that character is, and that's who that character is. And then other times we're doing academic English. So we're not putting one down for another. It's just totally inappropriate, right? For certain situations to use that academic English. It's just not appropriate. It's silly. Just like I wouldn't go to Congress and then start speaking a certain way that's non-standard, right? So
You know what that reminds me of, TD? I always use him as a great example. I think Martin Luther King would be a great example of that because he could go and speak at Congress and he get their attention. He can go to a southern town and he get their attention, and he talked just like them so they can understand. I feel like once you get where you can, once you get your thoughts together through, learning these different tactics and different methods, it's like now you can say, oh, like for me, I can talk with the best of them when it comes to like talking games, talking a little slang, and my kids coming, I'm like, okay, I know what Riz is. I heard that one before.
yeah.
But then I can also have a conversation with you. We don't have conversations where it's not it's more like we've been on Ash in his group, and we have great conversations about being authors and about about getting to. He'll say getting to the bad, but he's not gonna say, oh, you know what I mean? We're getting to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so encouraging that creativity, encouraging that real world purposes for writing, because a lot of the writing is just for the teacher. Like, you're writing this report for me, instead of saying we're going to do an editorial on abortion for this, or it doesn't have to be abortion, right? Like, what is your choice? What do you want to write about? So we're going to do an editorial on this. A lot of people are saying this about this particular situation, and you're going to write how you feel about it. And it could be serious, or it could be just like silly. For me, like, I have a big thing against automatic toilets. So I've written about that. And it's like, that's not serious. It's, a law doesn't need to be passed about it or whatever. But I have an opinion about it. I don't like them. And I have, I've written a whole thing about like why I don't like them, why I think they're not helpful or whatever, So it could be serious, or it could be, very much like whatever. It's just
I might do a blog post on self-checkouts because I can't stand the self-checkout. And you talk about toilet, the self-checkout, it's the self-checkout for me.
Yeah. Self-checkout.
I'm gonna write out a blog post about that today.
Right. Yes. And you're motivated to write about that. It's something that irritates you. It's something, right. And that's where we could see the writing skills. We could help the writing skills because they're writing about something they care about, instead of everyone's writing an editorial on the election. And I'm saying editorial rather than just argument, because maybe you're going to put it in the newspaper, maybe you're going to put it on this website. Who's your audience for this? And again, that affects how you're going to write this. Are you writing this for parents? Because parents need to know. Are you writing this for kids your age, right? You hear some of those graduation speeches. Again, we're in graduation season. You'll hear graduation speeches where their kids are definitely using the popular language and terms of their time period, because they are also writing to and speaking to people their age. And of course, it's going to be, nuanced. There'll be some things for the adults when, we thank you guys, we appreciate you, or more standard, but it's also going to have both of that. If it's just going to be to their own, people that are graduating in their own peers, it's maybe going to be totally different if there's not also adults there, right? So we know that we have to help them understand that and help them embrace that. But a lot of times the writing instruction is just for one purpose for the teacher. It's not for a real audience. It's not for a real purpose. And one of those ideas that we see often is the 5-paragraph essay. And I write about that in my book. I'm like, well, go find it in the wild. Can you find this structure in the wild, or is it something that's just in school? And pretty much it's just in schools. And it's like
the introduction, the conclusion, then the body. I remember that.
and that's and where else do you write that way? I mean, when you see published work, it's not like that. And so we're not really preparing our kids if we're not really talking about real world literature, media, and forms, right? We're just using something that's very arbitrary. And again, people will live and die on that. Like, it has to be the conclusion at the end, it has to be like this. But these rules actually don't apply if I'm like a published writer in a newspaper, in a magazine. Like, no one's writing that way. And so we really have to be clear with our kids. Like, we're trying to prepare them to be career and college ready. And so having kids write things that you could find in the wild and use those authors. Here's a published author in the New York Times. This is what he has. We're going to write something similar, but it's going to be about a topic that you love. They wrote about politics, but you're going to write about automatic flushing toilets. You're going to write about the self-checkout. You're going to write about fashion trends or whatever it is, because that's what you care about. And of course, there's an audience for all of those places. There's a magazine that has to do with maybe unions and self-checkouts, right? Because that's a union issue. And there's a place for automatic toilets, because I make it an environmental issue, because when they break, they flush 1,000,000 times. And what's the reason for, even having them in the first place, So you kind of figure out, like, what audience how could you adjust the message to fit an audience? Maybe you could write about it in that union magazine so you could get rid of self-checkouts or have less of, or whatever. Again, making sure your writing is for a purpose. Like, I am maybe writing, sometimes it's just to vent, right? But it also might be writing so you could get a policy change, so you could get people to spend money on something, so you could get someone to buy something, so you could get someone to donate, or more people to participate, whatever it is. So thinking of writing as not just a school assignment that's arbitrary that my teacher assigned, but writing is real world purposes. It's for an audience. It's to make something happen, right? And I talk about how much money the writing is, right? If I'm writing a proposal, that could be $10,000, it could be $1,000,000, it could be 100,000. If I'm writing for a scholarship or to get into a college, think about the money. This is where $50,000, this little application I put together for this grant, or this application I put together for this scholarship, or for this job, this application, this cover letter, all of that. So it's for a real purpose. So think in terms of that, and that's what this book really gives those real guidelines, because our kids all care about something. But obviously, if we're just making them write about something for arbitrary purposes, like just because I'm a teacher and I want you to write a report on elections, because maybe that's interesting to me, I'm turning off other kids by not saying, what are you interested in writing about? Let's find something in an actual magazine. Maybe you could submit this to a contest or something. So, I mean, but really, again, go back to the legacy building, right? We're going to be locking our kids out of those opportunities, and we are, right? This is why I found the urgency in this book, in writing this book, because our kids are being left behind. And of course, we have ChatGPT and all of that, but I've been on interviews and tests and all of that, right? Those big tests you have to get certified. You just sit there and you have to write it yourself. It has to be you writing it. There's no internet access. You can't bring anything electronic in. It's you sitting down there and doing that. So we have, it's just the urgency with us, with our as parents, as teachers, to make sure our kids get what they need when it comes to writing and reading. because it's just such a big issue,
This is so good. Like, I mean, writing, first and foremost, writing promotes creativity. It improves creativity. You spoke a lot about how important writing is, communication. And that also leads me to reading books because, you get ideas from how the authors are structuring, how the author is communicating. And then with reading, you're learning different words as well. And so with us, we promote, reading a lot, especially, with our kids. I have to get this book because we have kids we have two young ones that's in elementary, one that's entering high school, one that's going to be going to middle school in about 2 more years. So this is, we definitely have to get this book. So my question is, how do us as parents, how do we promote writing? I know that you said outside of school, you also promote writing within your home. If a parent want to promote their kids to write and get into that creative thinking mode, how do we do that?
Yeah, so great. In the book, when we have the chapter about effective feedback and intentional practice, so you are going to be writing in your home for whatever reasons, right? Even if it's just writing a bill, disputing a charge, or whatever, you're going to do some writing. You might write reviews, like you are writing in front of your kid. And you could even write with your kid, right? Like, okay, what should we write? We really like that food. What should we say in the restaurant? Like, what should we write? Right. And so when they're younger, maybe you're writing it and they're helping you give ideas. Oh, they were really nice. They really said nice things, or they brought the food hot or whatever, right? So they're giving you ideas so that you could write with them in that way. They could help you write the review by talking to you about it if they're younger. But with the middle schoolers, right? They could actually be the person who's writing the review and giving those specific details of why this was a great restaurant, why the food was good. Or maybe it's just like a meh, maybe it's a mid, review, and what made it good, what made it bad, and so helping them with that. And also be really careful, and we talk about this in the book too, about the messages you say about writing. Because if you're saying, oh, I gotta write this, oh, I hate writing, all this reading, then of course our kids are going to pick up on that and be like, oh, all that writing, all that reading. You will see your kids copying things that you say and do, and you're like, they're acting like me right now.
Oh.
Right, so you want to spread the message, oh, I get to write this proposal. I'm going to be able to possibly win $50,000 or get this grant, or we'll get our money back before this. So I have to write the information about why I deserve my money back in the situation or whatever. So speaking positively about writing, and a lot of that, right, is baked in when we're saying a lot of negative things, whatever it is. If we're saying positive things about the writing or reading and whatever, then they're going to be picking up on that. Oh, I get to read a book, right? Or if you're like, oh, I gotta read, you know, or even the way that we frame it. Sometimes the worst thing I've seen parents do is turn it into a punishment. Go over there and write that down. Go down and over there and write. Go and read that book.
Oh my God! When I just heard my mama voice, because my mom used to make me read the encyclopedia. But on the bright side of that, I love to read now. It's like it was a task at first because she's a teacher, of course. So she's like go read the A through the whatever. You know what I mean? And I was like, I gotta go read the encyclopedia, and I can't just read it and just read it. I need some notes out of there. I need something.
Give me a summary.
But I wanted to ask you is also like of all the subjects, like there's a lot of things going on. Like you got the different maths and different histories, different stuff that they have in school. What is your passion behind the writing portion of it? Why writing?
So I mean, just personally, like I had like a pretty rough growing up, and I found writing to be so comforting for me because we also discuss this in the book. writing, again, the real world purposes of the book, it was very healing for me. Journaling, writing about all of my emotions as a teenager, whatever like I call hormotions, like the hormones and emotions all mixed up, it's like I wrote through a lot of issues. And of course, that came from reading. I was reading about what people did. Even I was reading these books about courage or perseverance. And so when I had hard times, a lot of times I could look at those things that I read. I'm like, okay, so this is just part of my journey, looking at it in a positive. Not that it wasn't that easy, but at least I could see that a little bit from what I had been reading. And I just admired the people that I was reading. So of course I wanted to write. And I also found it so helpful for me to write through so many situations in my life and not feel bitter or not feel broken, but be able to recover. And then it's just that record, right? Like I was writing about this in 2008 or 2001 or 1996, and you could look back and see how far you came, right? Because that's how life is. It ebbs and flows. Sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down. We have some setbacks, we have some failures, we have some triumphs. And when we have our writing, we can look back and see, okay, I made it through. And then you could even laugh, like, oh, I was so heartbroken. I was so upset, but this is such a silly thing. You know what I mean? So that's the thing, that kids, that's almost like they're just missing out on a world, because if you make writing just like me as the teacher, I want you all to do the report on the same thing, and that's it, then it's like the creativity is missing, the writing as confidant, writing as a healing agent is missing. And kids are like denying themselves from writing, or like this hating writing, have aversion to writing, and it's like you're missing out on so much, right? Just like that inner work that you could do with the writing, that record of all the things you've been through and how you made it through, and how many opportunities you could get from your writing, right? Or miss out on, again, if you don't have that skill.
I just came up with an amazing, or I came up with a pretty good idea. When you were just talking about writing and journaling, and I'm thinking, what the first thing I thought was, with our kids, having them to journal, about their day, after school, maybe, they can go in a place where they feel, comfortable, whether it's outside, have a beautiful backyard, and just, how was your day? And they can, go back at the time and kind of like look at it, whether it's a year or two from now, whatever the case may be.
I think us as adults call it journaling, but the kids they call it their little diary.
Or diary.
Yes.
My daughter, she got a diary. Yeah. I messed around, and I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I looked at my daughter's diary, and I was in there like, oh my God. But I never told her that I was. I went in and looked, and I was like, you speak like that?
Oh,
but no, but but I was kind of like brought back as a parent, but as someone watching someone express themselves, I was very proud. I was like, okay, she do know how to express herself, but now she been holding, so it kind of like gave me I got a little inside report on her and how her well-being, her mental was, because sometimes kids, they can't just tell you what's going on. They can't. Their diary, they feel like ain't nobody gonna, like, you seen the video they have now where they put the kids in the bathroom for a minute in front of the phone and say, yeah, you can cuss, you can say whatever you want to say, you're not gonna get in trouble, you get 1 minute and I'm walking out. And then some kids will be on there like, nope, I ain't doing it. Nope. But then I seen one little girl on there, she was in there snapping. She was like, let's keep beating us. Why you be beating us? And no.
Oh my.
Oh,
yeah. And that's part of where the resilience comes from, because you could see I've been through stuff before, I made it through, and this is just a little hard time right now, but I'll get through it and I can laugh about this one day. I mean, even though you're going through it, you can see, because you'll have that insight, right? Again, that was built on part of the things that I've read, but also just as you're doing that work for yourself.
And if you build a safe space as well, like in regards to having your kids to journal or a diary, and you build a safe space, you know, you'll be able to talk about it, and whatever is in the journal stays in the journal. And you're not going to get, you know, if it's something that you did.
I might tell them a little bit about my journal. I'm talking about you. You had me stressed, little girl.
Well, I think it's good to share, right? Because, and I in the book, of course, talk about how, yes, you can share some things with your kids. Of course, you're not going to share everything with them, but some things you can share. You may have an annoying person at work, and this is how you deal with it, right? Because, you know, they're little kids. I'm sure they probably go off on their brother or sister or hit them or whatever. We can't do that when we're an adult. So you're just talking about how you dealt with it. This is how I dealt with this person who did this to me. So you know, of course, pick and choose things that are appropriate, because they're always going to have problems with people. And you could talk about, as an adult, you still have that issue. Like, this is how I dealt with this. And you could journal about it and show them, and then write notes to each other. You could write a little bit in their journal. They could write a little bit in yours. Of course, again, like I said, you're not going to give them everything that is going on and things that are inappropriate, but there are things that you could share with kids. Because it will help them, because they'll know, like, okay, daddy still goes through this, mommy still goes through this stuff that I'm going to, you know, that, and you know, it'll help them. So again, that's all about the legacy building, helping them be able to navigate difficult times, helping them to meet the challenge of whatever, you know, they're asking them for a scholarship essay, they're asking them for to do a proposal for a job or a business venture. So they're able to rise to those occasions because they are used to expressing themselves. They're used to taking hard times. They're used to rejection and able to move on past it and overcome it. So, I mean, it is just so essential that kids get it. And of course, like I said, I have the book, the Rewrite Method, but then the workbook gives like practical, like activities, right? Actual things to do. So we talk about the why and the reason behind it, but then also here's some strategies that you could use. Here's some activities that you could use. And of course, you could adapt them to, you know, go with exactly what you do at home, right? Like this is something that we need to do, like kids developing a schedule, writing out a schedule for, you know, getting themselves ready in the morning, or packing their backpack, or, you know, making a list, doing a grocery list, right? You could do it, of course, paper and pencil, but you also could do it online or whatever. So these different practical hands-on things that you could do as a family, that you already do as a family, right? Maybe one of the kids has a baseball game or something, some kind of game, and we are going as a family. What do we need? Because we're going to be there for hours. What do we need to like make a list of the things that we need so that we could be comfortable, so we can have enough water, so we could have, so we need, maybe we need an umbrella, maybe we need, I don't know, like, you know, whatever we need, like the kids can help you plan that out. There's a prom party coming up. I don't know. Do you guys have prom parties out there?
Yeah,
Yeah. Prom
I
and
never had prom parties until
we actually have a birthday
until
party
like,
coming up on Sunday. So, you know, Aaliyah's birthday is on Sunday.
Well, she definitely been writing about what she.
help me plan. What do we need? You might give them a budget. You got $400 that you can spend. You got $100. I don't know what it is, but you can help them come up, you know, plan that stuff.
Said that about like going on a trip, because sometimes as parents we be like, okay, let me they give their phone. Oh, okay, we're gonna need some water. Okay, we're gonna need. Okay, did you get this? But instead of involving the kids, we knock it out. So it's like we want to make everything quicker, but actually we're actually robbing them of their creativity. You know, let them do the list and take out
problem solving skills, flexible thinking, right? So all of that. And, you know, our job is to work ourselves out of a job, not out of a relationship, but out of a job, right? So they are doing everything on their own eventually. And that doesn't happen by us doing everything for them until they're 18 and then saying, okay, you're leaving the house. So it takes a little bit. We're gonna write the grocery list together, to eventually you're writing the grocery list by yourself, or you're planning the party yourself, and I'm helping to give you some insight. You know, so eventually you're working yourselves out a job. You're showing them how to be independent. And one person was telling me how, you know, you should be planning 5 years in advance, like how they should be, you know, working on their own towards things. So you like slowly hand it over to them. So yeah, so and the writing is a big part of that, of course, a big part of it.
So I kind of want to shift gears because I heard in your is it elevator pitch in a way where you were, and please correct me because I didn't get I should have wrote it down when you said it, but we talked.
No problem.
But you were saying how do we help our kids legacy build?
Mm. Yeah, so a part of that is making sure that we're telling our stories, right? So telling our stories and also creating a future, right? So like I said, being able to um, write those proposals or write that scholarship essay or apply to that college or that job or whatever. So that's part of the legacy building. We're able to move, that next generation is able to make their dreams reality. And that looks different for everybody, but whatever it is, they have the skills to do it, right? They have the skills they have the flexible thinking and they have creativity so they could think of these ideas and then put them in action. And writing involves all of that because, what's the plan? I had this idea. So now what are those different million steps that need to take place before I build that hotel that I want to build so that's how and then also just basic is telling the story of mom and dad and their podcast and telling about, the empire that they built, being able to tell that because we do know around the United States, people are trying to silence different people's stories and their legacy. So maybe not just mom and dad, right? Not just mom and dad, but grandparents, great grandparents. What were their stories? What did they have to go through? What were they not able to do that now, we've reclaimed that, you know? So that's very important, right? And being able to move in rooms and places, articulate yourself, build those structures, put those things in place that maybe weren't there before. And I see a lot of business owners putting those things together, but of course they imagined it and then they wrote it down, they put those steps in place. And again, writing is that thing that really helps them to build those. Writing is such a high level skill. It is the combination of reading, thinking, comprehension, right? It's about um, putting together the words in order, putting the words where they make sense, capitalization, spelling, all of those things, the right vocabulary word, the right description, the specificity you need to get something done. So it's so many things, and it does create that life that you want. If if you get the skills that you need for the writing, you'll be able to plan out and enact your goals.
Yeah. Are you gonna be like me? I think I was this year old when I learned that when you put something in, like write a title of a book, don't put it in quotes. You have to italicize it. And I thought you put it in quotes. And the only thing that you put in quotes is the quote. And I was like, uh-oh, my bad. That I never, no one, I ain't gonna say no one ever taught me that, but that wasn't like some prominent uh, a day at school. I remember us talking about that. You know what I mean? So it's just being knowledgeable of, like you said, like I'm an author now, but you see my first draft, you be like, what in the world are you talking about, sir?
But that's how all the rough a lot of rough drafts are like that, and that's the thing we tell kids about the writing process, right? It's like this is the process. It doesn't start perfect, and you'll see there are lots of stories out there how these hit movies, screenwriters, authors, whatever. They went through 30 drafts. They went through whatever, and sometimes they will publish what it looked like in that first draft or that and then how it evolved from there. So that's teaching kids that, right? That and then again, going back to that, you didn't know about the quotation marks, but again, if I'm marking all your things down and, I'm marking that didn't stop you from doing what you needed to do though, right? So that the focus wasn't like, okay, well, yeah, you forgot those quotation marks. Like that's the thing I could focus in on and say negative, but yeah, lots of great ideas, lots of great concepts and information. So it doesn't have to be the focus. There are times, right? There's a time to teach like those conventions, right? The specific, like, but it shouldn't be everything. Like, all I'm going to talk to you about is how horrible all the mistakes you made. And then what about the message? What about my ideas? Like, I don't have anything to say about that. Just that you didn't put a capital letter, you didn't put a period, you know, and of course the kids hate, right? You know, it's like, well, I'm obviously horrible at this, right? And so that's why we have to make sure we focus in on the ideas, the words that they're using. Sometimes it's funny. And then we can say there's a place now for us to look at. Now we talked about your positive things. Let's focus in on this one thing, right? That you do. Yeah. And because there's going to be 30 mistakes, but they can't process that. They can't process it like to actually know, like, okay, I know how to fix this next time. And then processing it, like just hearing all that negative. I'm gonna sit here and tell you all 30 mistakes you made. And it's like
Make me not even want to do it.
I think I've heard that
exactly.
before.
Exactly.
It's like, you're supposed to praise them before you tell them anything that they don't know.
Exactly.
Like, because if you tell me, oh man, you had a great report, but when I tell you I was up at 11 o'clock last night and I was so tired, but when I saw your report, it had me in tears because when that story you had about that one guy in there, it was hilarious. All right, they're gonna be excited. I'm like, oh, thank you so much.
Yes.
But now you say,
Yes.
okay, did you know that, when you do quotes, you can only put quotes on a quote. That would be good.
Yes. I
Just
could receive that. Yes, you could receive it because you told me the positive things. So yeah, in the book, the part of the rewrite method for the effective feedback is a 4-to-1 ratio. 4 positives to 1 area that you work on. And that one area that you work on isn't that one quotation mark, but maybe I see that you're writing every sentence starts with the word I. And that may be the thing I could talk about. So think about how much that changes your writing if I'm talking about something that's throughout your work rather than that one quotation mark in the beginning is what I'm going to focus in on. Like, it doesn't change your writing that much because you change the quotation marks to italicize. But if you find something that they're doing repeatedly, then you are changing so much of their writing because it's like one type of error that they could then find and fix, and they could process that and make those changes themselves.
I love that. I love that. I like your style.
Yeah.
I just want to say, if you are a teacher or a principal or anyone in the school system and you're listening to this right now, y'all need to get this book. I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. Y'all need to get this book. I'm not saying you're not doing a great job. As a parent, we love you. We appreciate the hard work you do for our kids. Y'all need this book.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna get it.
And this is not a commercial for TD. That's my girl now. Don't get it twisted. But this is not a commercial for her. But this is just someone who can see that there is a void, and there's someone that's here to help us fill that void. Right. And that's what I love about it.
Yeah, and it's very authentic. Like, we need, because there's a lot of different technology platforms that's starting to come out and take over the world. And if we're letting these programs, which AI is very good, but however, if we're letting, these programs do all of the thinking, then we're going to be, dumbfounded.
Yeah.
And so, just going back to the basics and learning the skill set of writing and effective learning, effective thinking, flexible. I believe you mentioned flexible thinking.
That was good. I like that. I like that.
So important. And then teaching our kids how to do these things. I love our babies, and they are truly the future. And we need teachers like yourself to continue to encourage our babies and teach them how to effectively think and express themselves in so many different ways. And you just never know. They may grow up to be someone that
changed the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Question for you. This is, I don't know if it's kind of off, but I need some advice. How do you deal, this is a good question. How do you deal with writer's block? What are some tips for dealing with writer's block?
Okay, so writer's block, pretty much I try to think about adding that creativity to it. So if for example, I was bringing up election earlier. So if you want to say election, then maybe you could talk about the election from a different viewpoint. So it could even be from like the voting box. Like, what would the voting box say? What would the ballot, so you could just be very creative about it, so kind of think outside the box, make it kind of really silly, because that inanimate thing is having opinion about the people that are coming up to it, and you know, getting written on or getting poked, depending on how your the voting apparatus is. What do they have to say about this? So that's one way to do it. The writing block. So just think of, outside the box, think creatively, and that could help you then think about, something that's more, formal or standard or academic, if that's what you need to write about. Yeah. You can think about all those different people that are coming up, right? That gives you the idea, because you're thinking about that ballot box and how they're doing. You can talk about the young voters, the older voters. It gives you more ideas, because then I'm just thinking about what they're seeing. Like if I'm the voting box and people are walking up to me, like what I'm feeling, or like I'm the voting booth or whatever. And then that gives me, oh, so I could write about, the ethnic voters, the people who speak Spanish are voting. The older people that are voting, the people voting for the first time, and it gives
voting like this.
Yeah. People who are just voting because they maybe not read anything. They haven't watched the news, but they're voting because they're supposed to vote. Yeah, it gives you some ideas. So then kind of, thinking outside the box, thinking creatively and thinking about, kind of some wild out of the ordinary things will help you to grasp onto some really specific academic things, if that's what you're trying to get to.
Yeah, brainstorming, just
brainstorming. Yes. Yeah, again, part of the writing process. You might just write a list. You might just rant. Sometimes people just rant, because sometimes people want to, and kids especially if they got really a lot of negative, they want to do something perfect. But it's like, no, you're not going to write anything perfect. Just write whatever comes to mind, and it could be a list of words, and it could be just a rant. Just a dump. Like, what don't you like about self checkout? You could just, I don't like this. I don't like that. What do I don't like about toilets, automatic toilets, this, and then later on you could I could write a paragraph about the water usage. I could write a paragraph about the money that it costs, or, whatever, so yeah, so just write, like try not to think, okay, how do you spell it the best you can. This is your first draft. And of course, there's lots of tools to help you spell something correctly, but getting those ideas down is, what the crux of the writer's block is. So try not let go of that form, right? I need to write a paragraph. No, you could just write words. You just write phrases. You could just write, just kind of idea dump. Just dump all the things you could think about that topic.
So good. This is so good. Thank you so much. TD is in the building, y'all. I mean, when I tell you, first and foremost, if you have gained value from this podcast today, make sure that you go and like right now, subscribe, comment as well. TD, please let everyone know where they can find you.
Yes. So my website is fallingforlearning.com. My podcast is called Falling for Learning. So you can find me on youtube.com/@fallingforlearning, and on Instagram @fallingforlearning, and on Facebook, I have my Facebook group at Falling for Learning. And on Twitter, it's like at Fall for Learning, because can't do all those words in the letters. So yeah, you can find me.
Falling for learning, y'all.
What do you have going on right now? Do you have a course, a program, anything going on right now?
So I have a course that I'm going to be offering soon. We're going to be doing webinars, so it's coming up. So stay tuned for the details.
You're going to be for the kids?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I really want what we're going to be doing are parent and children workshops. So they're going to be so kind of work with you with your kids, so you could see how to put these things in practice, how to do it. So we'll do it together. So parent and children workshop together.
Oh yeah, sign me up twice. Yeah, this has been a really good segment of the Come Join the HighLife podcast. Before we get out of here, we got to ask you this one question, and I really need to know.
Okay.
Minds would like to know. So HighLife stands for hustler, innovator, gifted, and honorable. And it's for those who high on love, high on impact, high on faith, and high on energy. Out of all those acronyms, which one best describes you and why?
I would say innovator because it's really about creativity and it's really about uh, listening to that part inside of you and developing whatever skills and talents that you have. So I'm really about helping people to bring that out. And I'm also about bringing that out for myself, right? What makes it unique for you? What is it specific for you that you want to do? What are those ideas that you can bring into fruition? So innovator is it.
I love it. I love it. And before we get out of here too as well, is there anything you would like our listeners to know before you get out of here? A message or something that you just want to leave us with?
Yeah, so basically I really want parents to know that, you know, you make the difference, right? So creating that atmosphere where kids feel comfortable writing, expressing themselves, reading, and sharing your learning journey, your writing journey with them, things that you have to write about and the things you have an opportunity to write about and to create will help bring your kids into a space where they are listening to themselves, they're expressing themselves, and they are learning and growing.
Couldn't know better.
Y'all heard it.
I'm talking about know better. That was amazing. Thank you so much, TD, for coming through.
Thank you so much.
The time, we really appreciate you. All your knowledge is just a whole. I feel like we need to have you come back again and have.
I'm down.
Like we just got at the tip of the iceberg because that writing is definitely something that we need to work on when it comes to our kids and to know, like you said, building those legacies. So thank you so much for your time today. And you guys, make sure you guys follow her on Instagram, TikTok. Not TikTok. Instagram, Facebook, and all those social platforms at Falling for Learning. Okay.
Thank you.
Almost said falling for love.
Also, falling for love. What you talking about? Yeah.
Falling for love of learning. Falling for learning. I appreciate you guys. Such an honor to be on your show.
Yes, thank you. And with that being said, this has been another episode of the Come Join the HighLife podcast. I am Mr. HighLife Film.
And I am Trumeeyka.
Do something today that your future self will thank you for. And please don't forget to put some respect on your mind. Hey. See you later.